Today we're talking about a timeline for our ascension. When are these ascension events going to happen? So welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Ann Tucker if you haven't been here before, and thanks for coming. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. That means I raise my awareness up as high as I can go, a little higher. I connect and the messages come through me. I write them down, I dictate, and then I share them here with you on YouTube. But today's message is a little different. Today I am looking at a lot of past channelings and lining them up to show a timeline using astrology to show the support for different events at different times, and it creates a really compelling picture. So I'm super excited to share this with you. This is a longer message, but stay with me because I'm kind of taking a viewpoint that through this whole thing leaves us, I think, with a much better sense of when and how some of these bigger events are going to happen. So I also wanted to mention, if you would like to be part of Peace Bathing, which is an experience with the angels where they raise you up. It's a group session. It's happening this upcoming Sunday. They raise your awareness up into the vibration of peace. It's an opportunity to experience a monthly infusion of angelic love. And they're amazing sessions. You can find out all about them on my website, which is anntucker.com. And it's right there on the homepage, Peace Bathing. So if you'd like to join, it's this Sunday. All right, so let's get started with the message. All right, so the first part to start with is the looking at, and I'm going to be looking at this astrological information and then applying it to the channeled information and showing how these two overlap. And then stay with me because I'm painting through this process. I'm painting a picture of where we're headed, of what's happening. So it all comes together as we go. So, okay, so first things first is we're starting by looking at what they call the outer planets, the planets that are most distant from the Earth. And that includes Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. Pluto is the furthest, next comes Neptune, and then closer is Uranus. And these are the three slowest moving planets because they're the furthest out there. They're way out there in space. So, and these planets are known to affect humanity's evolution and collective experience. That's what they're all about. And so the current focus, based on where these planets are, this is what it tells us astrologically is happening right now based on where these planets are currently. This is the positive stuff that's coming from the placement right now. Number one, it's the focus is on breaking down structures, surfacing what needs to be healed. So we can see that happening already, like all over the planet, right? Every country is having issues of sort of stuff coming up that, think about everything from the Me Too movement to Black Lives Matter to, all the things that are like surfacing up that, and I'm just talking about US things, but this is around the whole planet. This affects everyone. So spiritual growth, huge. Think about all the people who are waking up. Shifting away from the focus on the self and moving into connection and compassion and love for one another and for the earth. So this is a really big focus, is connecting with each other and focusing on the health and well-being of the planet as well. So these are all the bigger trends that we're experiencing right now in our outer planets that we're seeing all over the world. And it's definitely tying into this ascension, to what's going on. So all right. So these themes are showing up in the channeling big time. So there's multiple messages that in terms of videos that I've got on my YouTube channel that are all about these. These are all things that I've shared with you guys here in the group around the theme of unity and brotherhood, which is all about what those other outer planets are trying to get us towards. The whole point of all this disruption and all this upheaval is that there are power structures on the planet, power structures, not only in the United States, in all the countries. This is sort of global power structures that have a very tight grip on the world. And the general idea is the only way to shake it loose and to make things more equitable and to make the world a great place for everybody is they have to break things down because the grip is too tight. It's just, there's too many grips, for too many hands in the pie. We have to shake it loose and break it down and create a better world that really thinks of everyone. So the themes you're seeing in the channeling is all around this unification, focusing on our collective consciousness, focusing on our connection to each other. So we've got the themes where no one lost in the Ascension, which is all about how the angels are caring for everyone. A whole message called a channel, which is brotherhood is our way forward, where they go into the idea that brotherhood is where we're heading in the future. They tell us what it's like to be a unified consciousness, because that's where we're headed. And they go on to tell us what we can each do to help unify humanity, because another part of this theme is sort of the polarization of society. So this is where the angels are speaking to what's going on with those outer planets. All right, so going on. So this I want to show you. I'm going to shrink myself so this you can see better. There you go. So these are the outer planets. These are the difficult things that are coming with the outer planets. They're the ways that, in terms of, we talked about like what they're trying to create. Here we're talking about how they're doing it, and it's not always pretty. So they are, Pluto in Capricorn is known for creating earthquakes, eruptions. It's sort of like that idea of taking that stuff that's underneath, the hidden, the difficult stuff underneath that no one wants to talk about, and bringing it up to the surface. And that happens in terms of our society, but it also happens for the planet. Difficult stuff underneath, which is a lot about what we're talking about. The planet needs to purge some of the toxic energy that really, and the angels said in just a really recent channeling, that the planet is purging energy that we really created through war and the difficulty, the fighting that we've had with each other. So also Pluto in Capricorn is destruction, tearing down infrastructure and the structures and the things that sort of, all the things that kind of hold us in place in order to overcome inequity. Neptune in Pisces is all about floods, right? Panic and confusion, surrendering to what is, to allowing yourself to just let go and release. And the angels talk about that a lot, right? And that's been my whole lesson with channeling, is about surrendering. There are also germs and bacteria, those tiny little things you can't see. So virus. And then finally, we've got the last one here, which is Uranus and Neptune, and that's also earthquakes. We've got two of the planets are talking about earthquakes here. Uranus and Taurus is all about the things that we need. Taurus is the planet that governs sort of our physical well-being, the ways that we take care of ourselves on a daily basis. So it's agriculture, resources, currencies, and even our borders between countries. That's the word you can't see because I'm in the way is borders. But so think about it also affects like precious metals like gold and silver. But the big ones here to look at is our resources, our agriculture, so food, all the stuff we've been dealing with shortages. This is all Uranus and Taurus. So these are the ways that these outer planets, the methods they are using to try to achieve the aim of breaking things down and creating more unity and brotherhood on the planet. So, all right, so we'll keep going. There's a lot to cover here. I'm sorry if I'm going fast. I'm just trying to cover it all within a reasonable time frame, so I don't have you guys here all day if you've got stuff to do. All right, so the channelings that have supported this are ones you guys are probably very familiar with. We've got channelings where the angels have talked about a potential solar flare back. They call it a blackout, the angels do. And this is where they talked about just recently, they went into the reason that they need to take our technology down to zero is because the technology is built on a really negative energies, on energies that are not supportive of where we're heading. So that there's nothing wrong with the science behind technology. It's the energy beneath the structures. Like even the internet was built for war, right? Think about the reason why Facebook was built, right? It was not an intention that was supportive of people. So a lot of our technology is built on energies that really don't work for us and that carry a really negative vibration. So they're saying, okay, this blackout is about tearing that down, and so that we can rebuild something that is supportive of humanity. There's been lots of warnings about earth changes, about the earth rift, about tsunami. All these things have come up in the channelings, all supporting what those outer planets are telling us. All right. So going on, so here we have the first slide showing timeline, and we're going to get more and more detailed as we go. So those outer planets, starting with, these have been here for a little bit, but I'm just showing starting with today in 2021, as we're talking about this. Here are the timelines for those outer planets, which are Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. And you can see that Pluto in Capricorn is going to be in place here until 2024. Neptune is in Pisces until 2025, and Uranus is in Taurus until 2026. So this is kind of where we're at. And so what we're going to be really focused on is this next 2-year period, starting from 2022 to 2024, is going to be where a lot of the action is going to happen. And this is what astrology is telling us. And so let's keep on going, looking down here at two super important things that are happening. And this is something that I think is true about astrology, is that looking at astrology is a little bit like walking into a giant library. And if you don't know where to look, it can be totally overwhelming. Like with astrology, you can pick so many books off the shelves and you might not get to the answer that you want to find. And so the key is, where do you look? So given that a ton of the channeling that I've got about the economy was specific to the US, the idea is that what happens to the economy in the United States is going to affect everybody. That our global currency is based on the dollar, and the United States is a superpower. That what happens with our economy has a trickle out and ripple down effect that affects literally everybody. So when we're looking at some of this stuff, it made sense to look at the birth chart of the United States to process this, to try to get some timelines. So, and it just so happens that two super important events are happening in the birth chart of the United States coming up here in February of 2022. And that's where those little X's are. And interestingly enough, both of them are happening at the exact same time. So February of 2022, we have Neptune return and Pluto return. And what a return is it means when a planet comes back to the exact same position that it was in during the birth time of the United States, is what we're talking about. So at the birth of the US, so it's 1776, this is where these planets were. And these planets are now returning to that place, back to that same birthplace. So that's a very important process. And it's super huge for Pluto, because Pluto hasn't been back in the US. It hasn't been back to that same place of the birth chart since 1776. This will be the first time. So it takes that long. Pluto takes that long to move around, that this will now be the very first Pluto return that we have. And it's especially important to know that a lot of countries do not survive their Pluto return, or they have massive shifting after their Pluto return, right? Something drastic happens to change them during that period. So the Pluto return for a nation is like a review of where are we at? How are we doing based on our founding principles? And Pluto being the destroyer, the terror of tearing things down, the breaking things apart, and letting what is hidden that needs to come out, letting it emerge. So you get the idea here. This is a really big deal for the United States. All right. So let's look at each of those events separately. The first one being the Pluto return in February of 2022. And this is, I put the astrological meaning here. And Rebecca's saying you didn't know anything about that, about the Pluto return. Yeah, it's interesting stuff when you lay this all out together, and the compelling story this creates. I just had to share it with you guys. So this Pluto return is all about, so Saturn is going to be in Capricorn at 27 degrees, conjunct with natal Pluto in the second house. I put that in little letters because not everybody follows astrology. So if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. But what it means is that, so Pluto in general, we talked about this, is the planet of like transformation, birth and death, destruction, bringing things up from underneath that need to be found, right? Well, it's the second house. This is going to be in the second house. The second house is all about internal finances, the finances and this is in the United States birth chart. This is what we're talking about. This is in the second house for the United States, which is about, the second house is about internal finances to the United States, structures of government, and institutions that manage money. So it's all about the economy. So this is all about Pluto tearing down, destructing, crazy, revealing secrets that have been in there, all that kind of stuff, all in regarding the economy of the United States, our financial institutions, our banks, all of that. So this is a major highlight on the economy of the United States in February of 22. So start that, put that in your head, pin in that. Let's move on. All right, the next one of these two events also happening same time frame, February of 2022, the Neptune return, and this is transiting Neptune at 22 degrees of Pisces, opposing natal Neptune at 22 degrees of Virgo. Like I said, if you don't follow astrology, just ignore that. You don't need to understand it to keep moving. So, okay, so Neptune in Pisces, in general, this is what that would bring up. So it would bring up Neptune in Pisces. Neptune is the ruler of the oceans. And think about Pisces, the water sign, a lot of water happening here, panic and confusion, losses, endings, germs and bacteria, and flood. So these are some of the major themes. These are not an exclusive list. I've used some editorial license here to help us paint a picture of what I believe is happening. So these are the things that can typically happen when Neptune is in Pisces. Now, refine that a little bit, understanding that the natal Neptune is in Virgo. So Virgo brings in another element, which is all around health, healthcare workers, and the workforce. So what this says to me is that in February of 2022, we have a major economic impact in the United States, massive. Like Pluto doesn't do things in a small way. We're talking about potentially a huge economic upending, and everybody's been talking about this. It's like the everything bubble at the moment. Like the prices of everything are sky high. It's crazy town right now. And so what this looks like is that, yes, it's a focus on the U.S. economy, and it looks like it could be coming from potentially flooding because of Neptune and in Pisces, potentially because of the virus, which is also Neptune in Pisces. And there's the element in there with Virgo because it brings in the healthcare, the virus aspect, but it also brings in the workforce. So there could also be the component which is happening right now, which is that the workforce is not able to, like a lot of people aren't showing up for work, right? There's so many, and this is happening for sure. Like I know in many countries are having this problem, but in the US, restaurants are closing because they can't get people, they can't get workers. And here it's because, there's a ton of different reasons. There's places where, one of the places I shop for groceries recently has a ton of empty shelves because two of their warehouse, they have two distribution work facilities. One of them had to shut down for weeks because they had a COVID outbreak. So there's all these things where workers can't come to work for one reason or another. And this is happening all over the place, all over the world, not just in the US, but I'm just giving you some personal examples of what I'm experiencing in my life. So we have three things happening. We have potentially the tsunami flood that the angels have been talking about would be supported by the astrology because of Neptune in Pisces, right? That's definitely a possibility as one of the triggers for this economic issue. And then the second issue is the virus. The third issue is the workforce. These are three things that may contribute, and it could be all three, right? We don't know, but this is what the astrology is highlighting, and these are things that we keep hearing about in the channeling. So let's compare it back now to what we're hearing. Okay, and by the way, this blew my mind. The last time this happened, where the Neptune in Pisces with Virgo, because this has happened more than once. The last time was in 1857, and guess what happened at that time? This was when not only were we having the Civil War at that point, which is a split of ideals, which is what we're already experiencing in our country. This is about the United States again, specifically. The split of ideals, the polarity of our country. It's also the year that we had the Panic of 1857. So this caused, and Panic of 1857, that there was an international financial crisis which affected the US and caused the New York banks to close for months. What blew my mind about this is that the angels have channeled that the banks will be closed. So, and this is the exact same energy, right? The exact same energy that caused the banks to close in 1857 is repeating in February of 2022. And the angels specifically told us, and I had no idea that this was true. Like I channeled that a year ago. They said, yeah, be aware the banks are going to close for an extended period of time. So like that kind of blew my mind. So let's, and hopefully this is making sense, you guys. I know this is a lot, and I'm going through a lot of information, but you guys, the recording will be here if you want to go back and review any of it, or if you've got astrology as a background and you want to add things, super welcome. But just to support this with the channeling, to show you what we've received in terms of messages, is sure enough, there's a whole message And these are thumbnails from my YouTube channel. So there's a whole message on the US banks may be closing. When I originally got these messages, I thought that it was going to be happening. Like I got these messages in some of these in early 2020 or 2019 or 2020, somewhere in there. I assumed because I was getting them then that it was applying to the fall. And so in a lot of these videos, I'm talking about the fall. It's going to be happening in the fall. The angels never said it was going to be happening in the fall. That was me. I thought it was going to be happening in the fall, and I was wrong for a lot of this stuff, but not all of it, because some of this stuff is already happening, and has been happening over time. And I think some of this is now pointing to the sort of the crescendo being in this February of 2022. If you look at the astrology, it certainly is compelling. Other videos that are on this in my channel are Will the Nation Unravel? And then there's a whole one on deflation for the United States, talking about what's going to be happening with in terms of how the economic collapse rolls out. So anyway, so super interesting to see how the channeling and then the astrology dovetail so amazingly clearly. Okay, so just to show this, in terms of the messages that we've gotten from the angels, they specifically talked about the shortage of goods. And boy, have we been seeing that. Even now, even though that things are sort of supposedly coming back to normal, here's a very recent, like this month article from in Money Magazine, tennis balls, pickles, and 5 other surprising shortages right now. Like there's shortages all over the place. And it's random, and it's all about supply chain, right? There's all these supply chain issues. Same thing as they mentioned in one of the channelings, they specifically say truck drivers will abandon their routes. And I was speculating at the time, trying to figure out, like, why would truck drivers abandon their routes? I couldn't imagine it. I had all these theories about why it could be. Well, guess what? In the UK right now, they're having a massive truck driver shortage. There are 100,000 truck drivers that have abandoned their routes for all different types of reasons. That's literally 20% of the trucking workforce in the UK is not working right now. And so yeah, this is exactly what they talked about. And I think that description of truck drivers will abandon their routes, I believe that, yes, it's actually true, but I believe it's a metaphor for all the supply chain problems. The whole idea that there's difficulty getting things from one place to another. And we've seen that play out ad nauseum, right? That's been happening and is still happening and is continuing to happen. As long as we're still having COVID as a problem, we're going to continue having issues with stuff getting from place to place. So the third article I wanted to show you guys was the angels specifically said, they talk about a period of deflation, and then they talk about a period of hyperinflation. But the deflation comes first. And that has, for the longest time, all you would hear from all of the financial pundits was inflation, inflation, inflation. Like, watch out, they're printing money like crazy. We're going to have this crazy inflation. This was all you heard. And I kept thinking, gosh, the angels said deflation. Like, how in the world would that happen with all this cash? All this massive amounts of money being printed. But guess what? All of a sudden, people are talking about deflation, including Kathy Wood, who's from ARC. And Kathy Wood is a super respected woman. She runs a fund, and she has predicted some of the major events that have happened recently economically. And she has a phenomenal fund, by the way, called the ARC Fund, which is all based on like investing where your heart is, like investing in the future and where things are going and things that are ethical. And so anyways, I like quoting her just for that reason. But she is now saying that things are set up for deflation. So not everybody is saying deflation. It's definitely an argument out there. But I mentioned it that at this point, some people, especially people that I respect, are talking about deflation. So that is a possibility. So anyway, so this is just an example of the things that they said in the channeling. And they keep saying that this is already in progress, that all of this is already in progress. Well, I think this is an example of what they're saying. Everything that they've been telling us, it's like this slow, this slow release of all this stuff. And we are the boiling frog in the pot. It's like it's just happening all around us, one piece at a time. And we're watching it all come together. So, okay, so there's more. I hope you guys are still with me, because this is long, I know, but there's just so much to share, and I know this is important stuff. So I want to make sure you have the information so you can use your own discernment and think about it for yourself. All right. So, okay. Where am I now? Is that that's number 1. So let me close this one and bring up the next set of slides. Hold on here, because I got a few more in a different deck. All right. Okay, so going back to our chart of timelines. So here we have a few more planets to consider with all of this understanding. So you see we've got, Pluto is going up through 2024, like I mentioned. So this is what really hones us in on this 2-year period between 2022 and 2024 as a period of real upheaval. And you're saying it's great information. Absolutely still with you. Thank you very much. And thanks, Rebecca. She's saying still with me. I really appreciate it. Good to know. So this period 22 to 24 seems to be the most, and I've been feeling that as well, that when people have asked me, like, how bad is this going to be? What is going to happen? I keep saying, prepare for 2 years. Around 2 years has felt like the window of time where things are going to be the most chaotic. And the astrology is showing that. It's showing that this is really the window that we need to be looking at. And it's bounded by the next planet we're going to talk about, which is Chiron. I'm not sure actually if Chiron is a planet. Somebody correct me on that. Chiron is a something, an asteroid, maybe. I don't know. It's a something out there. And it is affecting us. It's one of the things that people watch astrologically. So anyway, so Chiron is happening here. You can see it's right around 2024. It's a Chiron return. Again, when it says return, that means it's coming back to the place of the birthplace of the United States. And somebody's saying it's a comet. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Because I forgot. All right. So here we are. So we have two things. We have Chiron, the first one, returning in April of 2024. That is going to be in Aries. So Aries, for those of you Aries out there, know that it's all about identity, about who am I? So this is what we're going to be thinking about in the United States in 2024. As Chiron is in Aries, we're going to be saying, what is the identity of the United States? So this really implies to me that by this point, everything's been washed away. That at this point, things are broken down. That the work of Pluto has been done at this point, and that shows right in the chart. That shows that Pluto at this point, Pluto's done his work, and I think Pluto might be a feminine energy. Anyways, Pluto is done. And we are in 2024 with Chiron, and it is now time to look at ourselves and say, okay, all that stuff that we had thought was permanent forever, all that stuff that locked us into ways of being and doing and thinking, it's a free open game. What are we going to create? Who are we going to be, right? How are we going to treat each other in this new world? And that's the opportunity that comes in 2024 with Chiron and Aries. All right. So you're saying this is awesome, great stuff. It helps to make sense of it all. I'm so glad. Thank you for that. Because I know this is like, it's a lot of stuff, but I think the timeline, I was amazed at how it all came together. So, okay. So then we also have to talk about Uranus return, the Uranus return, which is Uranus. Yes, it has all of, like when Uranus is in Taurus, Uranus and Taurus do not get along. And that's where we are right now, because Uranus is all about like surprise. Guess what? Like new, unpredictable, super rapid, like the stuff that just is happening right now in Afghanistan is total Uranus and Taurus. It's like in 1 week, it's a total turnover in terms of the Taliban. So that's for sure like a Uranus and Taurus type of thing. Super fast, super rapid, unexpected change. It's like, boom, here it is. And so here we've got, but Uranus isn't always that way. Uranus just doesn't get along with Taurus. Now in July of 2027, the Uranus return is going to be in Gemini. So Gemini is all about innovation. So this is what's super interesting, is that now we've gone through all of this chaos. We've gone through a period of reflection, tried to figure out who we are in 2024. Now we hear it 3 years later, and all of a sudden we have new technology, new innovation. And I believe this is where, yes, I did put a flying saucer here. Not so subtle. I think we're going to be getting a lot of help by that time. I think we're going to be having technology that literally helps us go up into the stars. So that's my opinion. That's what I think. But anyway, so this is kind of, if you look at the timeline and look at like, okay, everything is supporting the chaos, the destruction, the reimagining who we are, and then into the new technology of how we're rebuilding our future. So there's a couple more slides here to share. All right. So the other part of this picture, which we can't ignore, which I think is amazing and wonderful, is that so Pluto is in Capricorn until that 2024, which is sort of gives us that window of between 2022 and 2024 of the chaos. But then in 2024, it shifts and it moves into Aquarius, the age of Aquarius, right? And so what does this symbolize? The Aquarius is all about, well, it really is. I love this. I got this quote from David Odyssey. It's the reboot of the Matrix. The rules of reality and the limits of consciousness go quantum. So I see this as meaning this is our spiritual evolution. This is us becoming open to source. This is us becoming connected to the angelic realm. This is us. This is really us opening and bringing in all of sort of the amazingness of that our new existence. This is our where we're trying to get to. This is our destination, coming in here with this energy of Pluto and Aquarius, moving us forward into those new energies. So how amazing is that, right? Okay, sorry, just had to let that out for a second. So, okay, so yes, this is supported in all of the channeling. So major themes, again, in the channeling were telepathy, connecting with the angels, right? You keep hearing them talking about this, what's coming. So we've got messages on emerging stronger after the Ascension events, talking about what we're going to be. They talk about what's coming for healers. And then there's a ton of support in our channel messages all around this idea of what we're going to become and how it's going to shift us in terms of our spirituality. So, okay, take a deep breath. So that is all the good stuff I have to share. Oh, no, wait, is there one more thing? No, that takes me back to the beginning. Okay, good. Let me go ahead and close this. Yeah. So that is the timeline as I understand it. So within this, it's like, okay, what about the Earth rift and what about the tsunami? I don't really know. Like there is energetic support for that coming from those outer planets for several more years. And I think it's all going to happen, it's either it could be in support of the economic collapse in February of 2022. So it could be before that. It could be slightly after that. It could be like a pile on, like, okay, now the economic collapse, let's have a flood. I don't know. So it could be anywhere around there, but we can put a pin in that date of February 22 because there are multiple astrological influences pointing specifically to that. And like I said, yes, it is the chart of the US, but the US economy affects the globe. So I think this really does apply to all of us. And then I find that there's just so much hope and encouragement and happiness to come from looking at those planets as we move into 2024, 2025, up through 2027, like looking at it's so clear. It was literally written in the stars where we are going and the wonderful stuff that is laying ahead for us. So yeah, we have a period of difficulty that we're going to have to go through for these couple of years. And it's going to be hard, but the angels have given us a lot of tools, a lot of advice on how to make it through that, right? They always keep saying, don't worry about what's beyond your four walls. Bring your mind back to center, right? Get centered, stay out of fear, and to have some supplies, have what you need to take care of yourself, have the rice and beans, right? And now we know the time window, like think a couple of years, and you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go crazy. I would say like you do want to be able to clean your water, store your water. You do want to have some food supplies, stuff like that. But really looking at how this all unfolds and all the pieces. I hope this has been as helpful for you guys as it was for me. So, all right, take a deep breath. I hope you guys have a fabulous Friday, a fabulous weekend. And I hope to see some of you guys in peace bathing. I know many of you are joining me. I'm really looking forward to it. So I can't wait to see you there. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next time.